Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys. Today I'm going to be talking about ways to carry your wildlife lenses when you're out in the field right after this. I recently took a look at 4 companies and a few different products, and it was all about ways to carry your wildlife lenses when you're out in the field. Now, in some cases, this might be just how do I want to hike with my primary lens, maybe my long lens. In other cases, it might be how do I want to take out my primary lens and then also have a couple other lenses or bodies to take out in the field with me. So I looked at all of that. Now, to make it easier for you, down at the bottom, there's going to be chapters, and you can go right to the product you're interested in, or you can watch the comparison of all 5 products. Or if you just want the conclusion, you can skip all the way to the end and miss the good stuff. And I'll come back at the end when I do the conclusion, and I'll talk about what products might be best suited for what type of lenses and what some of the benefits of each of those products are. So choose how you want to watch the video today. I'm going to get set up back here and show you each of those products.
So if you're still out there holding your camera and walking through the woods, this review, by the way, is not going to cover monopods and tripods. But if you're still hand holding that thing walking through the woods, do yourself a favor. Look at a carrying system. There's several here that we're going to talk about today. I'm going to highlight 4, and there's definitely one of these that will help you out. I promise you. So listen to all 4. No perfect system. Each one probably has some drawback to it. I'm going to be real transparent about anything that was given to me. What I use, I try not to let any bias come through. I think it's human nature. The products we use the most, there may be a little bit of bias there, but I try very, very hard when I do any kind of product review or information to let people know, was it gifted to me? Is it on loan, or do I own it? Did I pay for it? And then do I currently use it? So that bias is out there for everybody to know. But again, I try very, very hard not to let that show through. Now, why do we want to use a carrying system? Well, there are a couple reasons. One, it's probably a little bit safer for your equipment. So rather than just walking through the woods or hiking with this thing in your hand, there's a chance you could slip and fall, drop it. And a carrying system may help you out in that situation. But more importantly, it's just more comfortable. So this is for the person primarily who's a hiker. So you're doing wildlife photography, you're going to a destination, or you like to capture what you see as you're walking through the woods. Now in wildlife, we tend to use longer lenses. So the lenses I'm going to cover, I got a 400 millimeter 2.8, a 500 f4, and I got 270 to 200. I got all set up on different systems, and I'm going to show you those lenses. But I do use some of these systems for other purposes, and I'll let you know what those purposes are as well. The first system we're going to talk about is made by a company called Blackrapid, and it's the Blackrapid strap. This is a company that's been around for a long time, and I'm guessing is the most popular amongst wildlife photographers. It will support a heavy system, so I'm going to show you a pretty heavy system here in a second, and this is a product that I personally use. I also bought this product myself, so I have no affiliation with this company. The strap here, you're going to notice it's a very simple design. Going to click here, so it's got a little strap that goes under your arm here, and this will lock the top part, this padded area, in place. And that's the way the system is designed, is for this to lock in place, and then your camera actually is going to attach here and swing up and down. Now, there's a threaded bolt at the bottom, and you can thread this directly either into the camera body or into the foot of the lens. If you look on Blackrapid's website, you're going to see that that's the way they show it. However, there's another option, and I think myself and a lot of other wildlife photographers will take an Arca plate or an Arca clamp. I'm not going to give out any brands. I use many different brands of these clamps. I try the ones that I like that are value-oriented, that don't cost a fortune, and that hold real well, so I try to use reputable brands, but I'm not necessarily paying $100 for a small clamp like this. And then I'll just simply attach it here. And this is the system. This is how I carry my lens anytime I'm not holding it onto a tripod or not holding it onto a monopod. This is my system with a D4S, a pretty heavy lens or a pretty heavy body, and an old 500 f4 lens. It's a pretty heavy setup, and I can comfortably hike for miles in this. Now, there's really not a lot bad to say about this. I do want to point out something about every product. That's either for pros and cons. So the cons for this one, it is not evenly distributed in terms of weight. So you have one shoulder that's going to support the weight. And if you've got a bad back or bad shoulder, well, you're probably going to struggle to carry any heavy equipment, but it may not be the best option for you. It's certainly, in my opinion, better than just carrying it in your hand, though. So this is a good, it does distribute the weight nicely, but it is all on one side. The only other thing about this system is it swings. Now, when I'm walking, you'll see my hand kind of just falls right to the foot of the lens. And so as I'm hiking, I just hold this here. If you don't hold it, it may swing a little bit, which normally isn't a problem. But if you're climbing or you're doing any kind of work where you're really moving a lot, it may be something to consider. So I don't think there are huge drawbacks to this system. Anybody that's ever asked me about slings, I've always said you can't really go wrong with a Blackrapid strap. So that's the Blackrapid strap. I'm going to jump into the next one, which is also a sling-based system, and that's by Peak Design. Now, Peak Design system is interesting. It's different than the Blackrapid system in a couple ways. I did a thing on Instagram, and I asked about wildlife accessories and what accessories people liked, and this kept coming up. Now, they make two versions of this strap, so I'm only reviewing the strap that they make. They make a bunch of other holder types, but for big lenses, this is probably the only two options. This is called a strap lite, and then they also make one called the strap. The difference is size. So I owned the strap lite. I actually won it in a photography contest a few years ago. I did not want to go out and purchase the strap for this review, but it's the same principle. So I'm giving you a fair critique of the system, but since I haven't used it extensively, I can't speak to durability or how well it will perform over time. But I will reference you at the end to another video that you can watch about that. Now, people love this system, and I want to show you why it's different. It is removable, so it's not quite as easy as the Arca plate on the Blackrapid system. Over here, there's two push buttons, and I was real skeptical about this because I thought this little nylon piece, and I'll show you a close-up of it here. This little nylon piece, that's really going to hold this camera? And so I read reviews. I couldn't find anybody that said that had failed on them. So I was a little surprised. I think I'm not a designer, but I think it's much more than just a simple piece of plastic that we're using here because it seems to hold very well. And again, I have to rely on just what I could read. I read a lot of reviews and watched a lot of YouTube videos on this. Couldn't find anyone that said that this part of the system failed. Now you will notice it's got two connectors. So you have to connect this in 2 points. Your options are, you can connect them both to the top. So most camera bodies have these little holders here. You can put them right on there. Or with the longer lenses, what I've seen most people do is connect one here, and then they give you a little plate that comes with the product down here. And it uses the same system, so you can see here, there's the little piece that disconnects, and then it screws into the foot. So, pretty straightforward. Now, how did it feel? Now, remember, I'm using the lighter version of the two products. It actually feels pretty good. So, on the top side of the strap, on the strap here, there's a rubbery coating on one side and smooth on the other. Unlike the Blackrapid strap, the whole strap is intended to slide. Now it sits really comfortably. Because there's two axes or two connections here, the way it just naturally falls, you'll see the lens falls down a little bit, and it sits pretty tight against your hip. It didn't seem to slide. So you notice when I turn, it didn't seem to slide as much as the Blackrapid strap. So a little bit better in terms of that. This part, again, the whole thing is sliding. So as long as there's good, I guess not a lot of friction here, seems to slide really well. So I could see why people like this system. I'm here, I want to shoot right up and then right down. Seemed to be really nice. Now, a couple other little things I liked about this one. It's got an adjustment system that is simply, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit, but it simply lifts up, and then you pull, here we go. You pull that, and then lock it back down. If you wanted to make it shorter, same thing, you just slide it in and lock it back down. Let me zoom in here and you'll see that system and how they designed it right there. Seems really well built, super, super easy to adjust. So if for any reason you're hiking and you just wanted to change the adjustment, or you have somebody else using it, really, really simple to adjust. On the other side of this, you flip it over, that rubber side, when you're hiking and you're not shooting, that will help lock it in place on your shoulder. So again, using the light version, I haven't read any reviews that talked about struggling to support the camera itself. They do have the option to put additional tethers. I would tell you with everything here, having a second tether or a safety is probably a good idea. Even on my Blackrapid strap, I'll often put a second attachment so that if for some reason it failed, I would have a backup. I'll show you the tethering system on the next one that comes actually included with the product. For mine, I've made a tethering system, but it's certainly something you might want to consider. So again, if it fails, you've got a backup. Now, I gotta be honest, I like this a lot. I'm not going to switch from Blackrapid, and there's just a couple reasons. I will tell you, I read one review. I'm going to put it here in the, or I saw it's actually a YouTube review. I'm going to put it here in the comments. Very well-known wildlife photographer tested this. Same opinion as I was, basically. It's pretty comfortable, and it works pretty well. But he noticed with his very heavy lens that this connection would sometimes just creep a little bit and start to slip. Now, if I put tension on this, okay, it's locked out. You can see it does slip. Again, I'm using the light version. I haven't tested this out in the field exclusively, and I have friends that use this and have never mentioned that as a concern. I have to put it out there because I saw it and I can't act like I didn't. So, again, I didn't purchase this product out of pocket, but it was not sent to me by the company. I have no affiliation with them. I won this. Uses for this, I could see this really, really working really, really well with like a 70 to 200 setup, or just a smaller lens in general. I'm not going to switch to this for my longer lens, even though it kind of feels pretty good right here. I like the way it feels on my hip. So anyway, that's going to be it for the Peak design. If you have experience with this, put it down in the comments. Would love to know your experience with this. Did anybody notice this slippage? Have you used it with a heavy, heavy lens over a long period of time? And again, I told you in terms of comfort, it doesn't have the padding up here, but the overall comfort was pretty good on this one. I did take it out, this lighter strap. I did take it out and hike with it a few times. Honestly, I didn't notice, I didn't have any problems with it. I was wearing a jacket because it's cool here. It's winter in Pennsylvania. So, but yeah, no problems with this one. I'm going to get on to the next system. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is made by a company called Spider, and it's the Spider holster. And this is a belt style carrier. It's the only belt style one that I'm going to talk about, and this is actually one that I use. I use this pretty regularly. This was given to me by Spider a few years ago, and over the years I've done some Instagram promotions. Like if I take this out in the field, I'll tag them in it. But I tag them because I use it and because it's a good product. I really, really like this. Very well made. This came from a recommendation from a couple actual event photographers and wedding photographers who told me about it, and I was looking for something to carry like a second. And at that time, when I was carrying a second setup, a smaller setup, maybe a macro lens or something, I would put it on that sling that I told you about. But remember how I told you that sling would kind of swing? The disadvantage for me of carrying a second smaller body on a strap was that it could swing. Now, I'm talking about the Blackrapid. The Peak might be a little bit different, but once I got this, I didn't really care because I liked it so much. I'm going to put this around, I'll put it over my shirt just so you can see how it fits. There's like all kinds of adjustments to your height or waist size, I guess. And it's very, very comfortable. You do have to kind of fit it snug on your hips. Depending on your body type, this, it may be more or less comfortable. For me, it's very, very comfortable. It's got a really well-made holster here. And the way it works is you've got a couple, I'll show you on these. I've got some longer lenses here. Okay. They make a body plate. So if you've got a smaller lens or you're carrying a second body, so I'll just kind of show you real quick. Let me grab this one. So if you're out in the field and you're just carrying a second body like this, by the way, this lens is, or this body is toast. Don't be like, I can't believe he doesn't have a cover on it. This hasn't worked in about a year, so I'm not too worried about the cap for it. But you can see it's got a plate. And on that plate, I'll show you two different versions of the plate. They've got a screw here, left and right, and that just literally falls into the holster and sits there. You could put a lens on it if you want. I'll show you with a longer lens setup, or you can do it just like I did here. Now, it's got a lock here as well, so you can lock it in place so it won't come out. It's really, really, really easy to use. So you can see it just sits here. It doesn't really swing too much. It's very comfortable on your hip. And when it's time to get it out, let me take the lock off. When it's time to get it out, you just lift it up and it's right out. So it's really, really easy. You can read hundreds of reviews on these. I haven't really read many negative reviews, if any, on this. So it's a really great system. Now I do want to show you a couple downfalls. The first is going to be, I'm going to put this lens, this big lens back on it. And that is, it is not a great lens or a great system for a huge heavy lens. So if I've got this, it's just a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight on your hip, and it starts to get off-centered. So it starts to pull on one side. So it's really not designed. I'm not saying you can't use it with a big long lens, but it's really not designed for that. The second thing is, or what it's really good for, is about this size. So a 70 to 200. Now this is my mirrorless and I'm filming with it, so I don't have a body for it. But when I put this on, they make a long lens adapter. And look how comfortably that sits. I hope you can see this. Let me back up a little bit. It sits almost perfectly on my hip. And the weight is just about right. I've done this with a 300 2.8. That's pushing it. But the 70 to 200 or any lens smaller is great. Now this one, it has a lens foot. So you'll see here at the bottom, there's just a little plate that you can add. And that's got those knobs. So there's the knob you would put it on. It's also Arca Swiss compatible. So you can use it right to a tripod head or a gimbal. So you don't need any other special adapters or anything else. So it's it's really great for 70 to 200, or like I showed you before, if you're carrying that second body, or sometimes I'll take out a macro lens or landscape lens. So if I'm going up to a scenic place, I've got my long lens, maybe I'm carrying on a monopod, but I want a second body, I can put it right here. Now, of course, you can also use a backpack. So if you're hiking out and you want to throw that in your backpack, absolutely no problem. But there's a lot of times where I might be hiking a short distance and I don't really want to put a backpack on, and I want to have this camera really accessible, especially when I do macro. So for example, I'm out there and I'm shooting whatever, sparrows or warblers, and I see something kind of cool. I like to just take this out, do my macro, put it back in without taking the backpack off, undoing it, getting the camera out, putting the backpack together, putting it back on my back. So that's where I use this one a lot. Short hikes where I want that macro lens available, or maybe I just want a different focal length, or sometimes I'll take a low light body. I used to use the D4S as a low light body, and then a D850 as a high pixel body. So if you guys are familiar with Nikon, you probably understand that concept. But sometimes I would just take an extra body out with me. So anyway, that's how I use the spider system. The only downside really to this one is you can't take out a real heavy lens with it. I would say you're pushing it with a 300 2.8, but anything smaller than that, I think you'd be fine with it. So I really, really like this one. All right, so this brings us to the last, it's actually the last company. I'm going to show you two versions that they make, and this is by Carrier. Now this is the one I have the least amount of experience with. I was going to make this video, and I wrote to them and said, hey, would you like to be included in the video? By the way, the customer service I personally have dealt with, Spider was excellent and Carrier was excellent. Those two companies, I could say that the service that I personally received was very, very, very good. Carrier does a lot of affiliate programs, so I see them on Instagram specifically a lot, and also on Facebook. So they have two systems. I'm going to show you the smaller one first. And this is their smaller, kind of like a harness system. It's a little off-centered, but you can see it goes over one shoulder, and then it's got these straps that anchor it here. I'm leaving these accessories on. There's a tether here. So this is, I talked about tethers before. This one comes with the product, so you can figure out where you want to tether it to. You can anchor it to these straps at the top just for protection, or if there was another area on the camera that you wanted to use, you could use that as well. Different camera manufacturers are different, and different lenses may have different places you can attach it, but the most commonly accessed one are those that come with the camera. They also provide a pouch. This is just a little cover that they give you. Now, their system's a little different, and theirs requires a plate. So I'll come in here a little closer, and you'll see right here, I've mounted the plate onto the foot of this old 70 to 200. And I'll show you how this works. I've actually got it mounted also to a bigger lens, so we'll try the bigger lens as well, and I'll show you how that works. Now, I'm going to leave, since I've got two different harnesses, I'm going to show you this on both of them. I'm not even going to put the heavy one on here because this isn't going to be big enough. But you could try this. This is a 70 to 200. You can see it's pulling a little bit, and I've adjusted this to kind of fit me. This size is about as big as you're going to get. You're not going to get a 300 2.8 on this. 70 to 200 is about as big as you're going to get. But if you're using it just with a camera body, and I did it where I just put the camera body on here, it was really nice. So a landscape photographer who wants a second lens, or an event photographer who wants a shorter focal length, I could really see this being something that they would want to use. A hiker that's going out, maybe macro photography with a smaller, lighter lens. This one, it's very, very comfortable. So I really did like this setup. Not going to use it for heavy lenses. All right, that's the caveat. Now I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to switch over to a different harness that they make, and I'll show you one that might be able to support a little bit more. And here's the last one, also made by Carrier. So I've already slid this on. I'm going to finish putting this part on, and I've adjusted it so that it's comfortable here. And this is their harness. And they may call this the vest. I call it a harness, but even weight distribution. And that's really the biggest difference between this and some of the other things that we looked at today. This is going to keep everything close to your body, so it's not going to swing, and it's going to distribute the weight evenly. So in theory, on a long hike, this should be the most comfortable system. The only part is it is in the front of you, so while you're putting all the weight on one side, I have not extensively hiked with this. I put my longest lens on there, and I did a short hike. It was comfortable. It felt a little bit big. I'm going to show you what that looked like. So this was I used my 400 2.8 when I did this, but this is a very similar type setup. And it's going to go in at a 90-degree angle, and then it swings down, and it kind of locks in there. So it can't go anywhere. They also give you some additional straps here, so you can actually strap it around the lens as you're hiking so it doesn't bounce at all. It's a pretty smart design. Now, for me, there's a lot to support. So having this weight in front of me felt like a little bit more than I would like. So I don't know that for me personally, carrying a real heavy setup of a 500 f4, 600 f4, 800 5.8, I don't know that this is the right system for me. But it does have the advantage of distributing the weight easier. So while in theory, this should be the best one for long hikes with heavy equipment, the way it sits forward and it's kind of in front of you all the time didn't feel as comfortable for me. Taking the lens hood off would help, but I don't like the idea of hiking without the lens hood just from a protection standpoint. God forbid it did fall, or I'm taking it out later and I set it down, or whatever. That lens hood offers a lot of protection. So I'm going to pop this out real quick, and I'll show you where I did like it. I tried it out with my 300 2.8, felt a little bit better. But again, when I got down into this range, and again, it's going to go in sideways and turn. When I got down into this 70 to 200 range, now you're starting to feel pretty comfortable. Again, I can lock it in with this. So if I want to really secure it, there's a strap here to secure it to my body even tighter. And in that case, if you were really active, you could conceivably like run or bike or jog with this and it not be a problem. So backpack probably be the best idea for those situations if you were really, really active. But if you don't want to carry extra gear, or it's a shorter hike and you just want the convenience, this makes a lot of sense. Now, for my 70 to 200, I showed you that spider system before. That felt pretty good to me, and I've liked that for a long time. Nothing about the Cotton Carrier made me say change systems. However, if I owned this one, I don't know that there's anything about Spider that would make me say switch. So both of them are good. They're both just a little bit different. Better weight distribution over both shoulders here. Very convenient having it accessible right in front of you. It's easy in, easy out, and you can kind of lock it into your body real tight. So I'm going to just recap. I'm going to take this off real quick, and I'm just going to recap what I think in each situation.
So whether you watch the entire video or you just skip to this part, you've made it to the conclusion. And what I'm going to do is start with just listing price points over here. So this is the products that I covered and how much they cost. Now, if you're interested in purchasing, do me a favor and check out the links below. They're affiliate links, so I get a very small commission on this, but it does help offset the price of the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So if you are looking at it, feel free to check out those links below. Prices are listed here. Now let's talk about some of the recommendations that I have. I'm going to start with just what's the recommendation for taking out one long lens out in the field where that's your primary focus. You're just hiking with one lens. And I will tell you either the Blackrapid strap or the Peak. Now, if you really are limited to just one lens and that's all you're using this for, the Peak Slide had a couple of advantages. And the biggest advantage was it sat really nicely on my hip, and it was very easy and very comfortable to get into shooting position. So as I showed you in the video, you could see how it just laid just right where I needed it, and it was easy to adjust. Now, if you didn't watch the video portion of this and just came to the conclusion, I would recommend you that you watch the video from Morten Hilmer that talked about the Peak strap, what he liked about it, and then the one thing he didn't like about it, because it's a little bit more in-depth. If you're looking for something that's more versatile, I would recommend the Blackrapid strap. And the reason is because you can attach an ARCA clamp to it, and then that clamp can be used on every lens that you have. So it's just very, very versatile. That's the system I use. It's the system I will continue to use because I do have a lot of lenses, and I do like to toggle that on and off to different lenses. So that ability to kind of use an ARCA system is important to me. So that's why I use the Blackrapid strap. The negative part, or the con for the Blackrapid strap, is it does swing a little bit more than the Peak design strap did. So that's my recommendation. If you're just using one long lens, look at the Peak design. If you've got a lot of lenses that you want the flexibility, maybe look at the Blackrapid strap. Both straps are great. I don't think you're going to have any problem with durability and reliability. They're both very, very reputable companies. So now what about a smaller lens or a second lens? So the scenario here is most likely that you are taking your primary lens out in the field on a tripod or a monopod, and you want to take a macro lens or a smaller 70 to 200, 100 to 400, or maybe even a landscape lens or just a second body. There's a couple options that worked really, really well. The straps will still work. So again, I told you the Blackrapid strap is very versatile, so you could just strap a second lens and go. But both the cotton carrier and the spider holster had the advantage that they stayed closer to your body. The cotton carrier up here, so if you like that idea of a harness, even weight distribution, the lens available on the front to the front of you, that might be a great option for you. The spider sits on your waist, again, very close to you, very secure. I've used this one for years. I really, really like the spider system. I'm not going to tell you one is necessarily better than the other. I will probably continue, I think I will continue to use that spider system. It's just something I'm very comfortable with and I've never had a problem with. So if you're trying to decide between cotton carrier and spider holster, look at things like price, flexibility, where on your body you prefer to have it worn, and even your body type might be influenced by that. A belt may not be the right fit for everybody, and a harness may be more comfortable, and for some people a belt may be more comfortable. So kind of think about what your personal preference might be there as well. There are a couple plates available for the cotton carrier. I mentioned that they do make an ARCA plate. I want to make that very important because I didn't show that in the video. I don't own that plate, but they do have that available. So if you're looking for help with a system where you can put it on a tripod later, they do have that available. I'll put a picture of it here with the price point for that add-on. And then the plates for spider system, there's a lot of different plates available for them as well. And I showed you the long lens and I showed you the camera plates that I have. So in summary, really it depends on what you're using it for, which one would work best for you. I hope you found the review helpful and interesting. If you have a personal preference, put it down in the comments below. And if you have any questions, you can hit me in the comments or even send me an email at eskeysimages@gmail.com. I do appreciate you watching this video and really look forward to your feedback to see if you found it helpful. I appreciate your ongoing support with the channel, And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.